Story 1. I want to die peacefully in my sleep, just like my grandfather, and not screaming in terror like his bus passengers. Story 2. Honestly, being in the impact zone of an explosion where you do not see it coming and it is just boom, instant pink mist would probably be the best way to go, but highly unrealistic. Story 3. Suicide. Mental health has been deteriorating since the day I became aware. Why would I want to prolong it? Story 4. Probably naturally at around 72. I would not want to suffer that long unless I do survive longer, and then I would like to survive as long as possible to document the generations. In any case, I want to die painlessly in my sleep. Story 5. By my own hands. It's honestly more a matter of wanting a sense of choice and control in my life, and I am okay with that. For now, I will keep moving forward. Story 6. I'm fine with pain, but it should be an ascension. I feel like it is really fun being zapped into higher dimensions. I have visions of it when I zone out, that it is going to be how I end my life. Being picked by God like Zoom. Story 7. Around the age of 60 or 65, with no debts or regrets. I do not want to die from any prolonged illnesses. Just something quick and easy like dying suddenly in a plane crash, getting hit by a bus that instantly kills you, or just a cardiac arrest in sleep. Possibilities are endless. Story 8. If it comes to a point of constant, endless suffering, I would not mind the idea of euthanasia. Story 9. Peacefully, in my sleep, after having said, "I love you," to everyone who deserves to hear it from me. If I had to choose the age, it would be post-retirement, around 70 or older. Story 10. I want to have a massive heart attack while eating a box of cannolis and receiving oral sex from a college cheerleader. Story 11. I would prefer to die in any painless way, without anxiety or fear. Could be some final destination scenario, but if I am not scared or do not feel it, that is okay. Story 12. I am okay with dying anyway. The important thing is that until my last breath, I can remember my God. It is just my personal opinion though. Story 13. In an old people's home at the age of 1 million with my girlfriend, high on morphine or whatever future drugs they give elderly people to make everything all right. Story 14. A woman with a curvy figure sits on my face and smothers me. I would like to live a long life, perhaps to 100, but that is my preferred way to go. Story 15. By hiring someone to snipe me anytime after I turn 70. It does not have to be on the exact day. Could be weeks, months, or years later. I just want to be walking down the street and then suddenly nothingness. Story 16. Peacefully. I have the means and I know the method. If the time comes when I have to do it myself, I will do so without a doubt. Story 17. I kind of want to die doing something I love, like hunting or fishing. Sure, it would be a more gruesome death, but seeing older family members slowly wither away also seems like a terrible way to go in its own right. I have said for a long time I will either be attacked by a shark or impaled by a deer. I am going shark fishing this weekend, so we will see. Story 18. I hope I die of old age peacefully, with the opportunity to say goodbye to my loved ones before I go. Story 19. I do not really care as long as it is relatively painless. I am not scared of death itself. I am scared of the pain of dying. Story 20. My answer to that question may vary. Sometimes it would be, as an elderly woman on her deathbed, surrounded by loved ones who hold my hand as I fall asleep. Other times, it might be, jumping off the Eiffel Tower with explosives and fireworks so that everyone can witness my glorious death. Realistically speaking, I would prefer to be instantly erased from existence while lying down on a beach after my retirement, because I refuse to die before I get my money back. Yes, I do not know why the Eiffel Tower came to mind, as I do not live in France. Story 21. Bleeding from bullet wounds in the snowstorm, with the sun not visible because it is snowing heavily, I walk on a railway lined with trees. I fall to my knees as my blood stains the snow red. Story 22. I do not know why, but I feel like going while aware would be better than going confused. Death is somewhat scary, but I do not want to be unaware that it is my time. Maybe it matters, maybe it does not. If I am conscious, the people I am leaving behind can also get better closure before I go, and that seems better to me. Story 23. I want it to be funny. Even if it has to be painful, as long as it is funny. I want everyone to be holding back laughter at my funeral. Story 24. I would not want to choose the way it happens. It is the only thing that I will do that is truly mine. The only authentic act of my existence will be its ending. The secret of its form is sacred. I would not want to tamper with it. Story 25. To make a statement or start a revolution. I want to die in a way that puts a certain idea in people's minds collectively. I want future generations to scribble on my face during their boring history lectures. Story 26. In a cool way, no. I don't want to die of old age. Do I want to die old? Yes. But no, I am not dying lying in bed. I want to be like someone slung off a fair ride. Story 27. In the hospital after a struggle with illness, I feel it will be easier for the people who know me to accept the shock of my death, since they knew I was admitted due to illness. Story 28. Peaceful version. In my sleep. Hero version. Pushing a child out of the path of a moving vehicle and getting struck by the vehicle myself. Story 29. I do not know. Ideally, I will have a wife, and we will both peacefully fall asleep and pass away together. I do not want to be a babbling idiot, alive just for the sake of being alive. If someone needs to wipe the drool off my mouth and I do not know my family's name, I would rather be dead. Story 30. Fighting for a cause I genuinely trust. Hopefully it is quick, because if not, I will likely disregard this comment. Story 31. It was probably a heart attack. I am fairly certain I have experienced at least one, maybe two. Both occurred in the last year. The most recent was last week with classic symptoms. I just took a half day off and a nap. Story 32. Feral naked cryptid in the woods. Once I reach 80, I will disappear wearing only a diaper. Armed with an aluminum bat, I will appear occasionally on trail cameras doing something lewd or disgusting. Story 33. Peacefully in my sleep, just like my grandfather. Not screaming and yelling like the passenger in his car. Story 34. Anyway, other than being stuck in a cave tunnel. I watched an animation of a cave explorer crawling through an underground tunnel, only to get stuck. Could not go forward, could not go backward. Just had to wait to die. Screw that. Story 35. Like Murphy in Interstellar, when my time comes, I want to leave this world surrounded by family, by the generations that followed me. I want to go knowing that the love I gave outlived me and that my story continues through them. Story 36. Heroin. I love opiates because I am in severe pain every day, and it seems like the natural progression given how deeply depressed I am. Story 37. I do not want to, but if I do, I either want to go peacefully surrounded by loved ones or in a way that wins me the Darwin Award. Story 38. Similar to Arthur Morgan, saving a very close friend, sacrificing myself, and watching the sunset before I go. Story 39. Quickly, painlessly, and peacefully. Preferably some kind of foresight or knowledge that it is going to happen so I can plan. The main reason I am still alive is that I do not want someone to find me because I do not want to be someone's trauma. And because I am a coward. Story 40. On the upstroke, that way I can get 2 more after I clock out. 1 when I fall and 1 when they pull me off. Story 41. It doesn't matter how for me, but dying knowing that my future children and family are well and do not need me is the way I want to go. Story 42. Like my grandfather, he passed away peacefully in his sleep. Not like the other passengers on the bus, who were screaming as they jumped off a cliff. He was the bus driver. Story 43. Let me save someone's life and they make a whole movie about how cool and nice I am. Story 44. In a way that will allow me to be remembered positively. Could be at 85 after a full life in my sleep, or tomorrow giving my life for someone else. Story 45. I know this sounds dark, but on impact in a car crash sounds like the quickest way to go. I have almost been in a head-on collision before because some people just do not obey red lights. Your adrenaline spikes like crazy. So imagine having a quick surge of numbing adrenaline, and then you are just gone. Story 46. Face me to the west so I can watch the setting sun and remember all the fine times we had that way. Story 47. With my affairs in order. By which I mean, with my children already well on their way to happy and fulfilling lives, no regrets or loose ends, and a belly full of morphine. Story 48. Just like my grandfather, peacefully in his sleep. Not like his passengers at the time who were screaming in terror. Story 49. There's fire all around, favorite music in the ears, a katana in the hands, and some game that needs to be killed. Well, to die at dawn, covered in blood and rays of the sun signifying victory. Story 50. Quickly, painlessly, and with no one around. Ideally, I will just go to sleep feeling normal and then never wake up. I would rather my close ones receive the bad news unexpectedly than have to deal with the social conventions around death and sickness. Story 51. Car crash or plane crash, I would want to be the one in control of the vehicle. I would not want to be a passenger with no control over my life or death. I do not want to be in a deadly crash and survive for obvious reasons. I would want it to be instant and as painless as possible, which has saved me multiple times from purposely crashing since there is no guarantee I would die. I love cars and planes, and even though I do not know how to fly and never have, it is something I would eventually like to learn. When driving, I feel at peace. I do not think of anything except driving. If I am going through something, I drive it out. My life revolves around cars and aviation, so I feel it would be almost poetic if I went out doing something I love and will always love. Story 52. Peacefully. Just kidding. I want to die of old age by the sea, with all the memories of my life. Story 53. Killed instantly by something unknown that I did not see coming. Maybe I am a victim of a stray bullet from the start of a shootout. Maybe a large object falls from the sky and crushes me. Maybe a drunk driver runs me over, and I get hit just right to die instantly. I am not that picky about what causes it. Story 54. If it is any consolation, the people I have seen die were being given many drugs. So many drugs that they could not notice me there, let alone be scared of death. They were just peacefully resting, and then they were gone. In my mind, I have a recurring daydream, vision, or nightmare that my death will not be peaceful. It will be from aggressive cancer or a car accident, and it will happen in my early to mid-30s. It will be very sudden, but hopefully by then, I will be on all the morphine in the world to ease me into the afterlife. I still have a few years left before I find out if my premonition is true, but until then, I intend to keep carrying on as usual. Story 55. Reddit answer. Harmed severely by Tessa Fowler. Real answer. Quietly and painlessly in my sleep after a lovely day with my daughter. Story 56. I want someone to remake the Colosseum in World War III, so I can win all of my fights, climb up to champion, challenge the king, and die a glorious death. Story 57. Of old age with my body still functioning well. Good eyesight, good hearing, good mobility. If I cannot do my crafting and listen to audiobooks or watch television, then just take me out behind the barn. Story 58. My dad was only 68. No history of any serious conditions, just rough on his body through the years. Car accidents, and he was an auto body repairman all his life, laying on cement and wet sanding cars. He bought 60 acres in his 30s, and working the farm brought him more joy than anything. There was always something to do or work on. He wasn't feeling well and was trying to sleep it off. He never got back up. I had to tell my mother that if he had gone to the hospital and had a stroke or something he never recovered from, he would have hated that. Dying in a hospital would have been terrible for him as well. He passed at home, in his bed, in his sleep on his farm that he loved. While it was a solid 20 years too soon, he wouldn't have had it any other way. And, as a final touch, he chose Friday the 13th as well. Completely his style. Story 59, old and ready to go, I suppose. If it could be by a good sniper from behind, and unaware I had upset someone enough to need that, all the better. Story 60. Sitting in a nice car listening to Dark Side of the Moon with a hose running into the back window. Reality will likely be a motorcycle crash or a heart attack. The thing I cannot figure out is, would I rather die before or after my wife? I cannot imagine being old and trying to live without her. And I know she would be fundamentally broken after I went. What is worse? Story 61. The idea of it hurting or the feeling of gradually getting weaker as your life slowly fades terrifies me. Story 62. How I died last week. General anesthesia for a procedure, heart attack, no revival. I was not dreaming or suffering. I had propofol and time did not exist. I was clinically dead and they brought me back. Instead of waking up 10 hours later after a drug-induced sleep, that was time and I was done. Story 63. While sleeping and dreaming a good dream where I can never wake up and enjoy the rest of my life stuck in that dream where everything impossible is possible. Story 64. Peaceful, painless tranquilizer overdose at the ripe age of 199. Surrounded by my family who know, if nothing else, that I was always filled with unconditional love for each of them. Story 65. I want to be at my place, surrounded by my books, with a childhood movie in the background. I think of The Lord of the Rings. I want my love to hold me close. I want her to gently scratch my hair, so I can feel one last time the warmth of her touch. And I want to let her know that I loved her until the end. Story 66. Fighting for a worthy cause, like trying to save a little girl from human trafficking or an old person being robbed, or standing up to a group of people trying to hurt someone I love and taking out as many of them as I can. I want people to say I died a warrior's death, an honorable one. I want them to say I fought till the end. Send me to Valhalla. Story 67. I just don't want to burn or drown. Beyond that, I don't really care. The most important thing to me is that it happens before I become basically helpless. If I reach a point where I have to wear adult diapers but can still take care of myself and remain physically active, fine. But the moment I need someone to help me clean up, I will wish I was dead. I said I don't want to burn or drown, but I would rather do that than be a burden on someone just to selfishly cling to life. I watched my grandfather do that and I saw what it did to my mother. Now, Story 68. When I die, I want to go peacefully like my grandfather did, in his sleep, not screaming like the passengers in his car. Jack Handy's Deep Thoughts. Story 69. Physician-assisted suicide, also known as medical aid in dying, in Switzerland with a non-profit organization like Dignitas. Go to sleep and never wake up. Story 70. We do not get to choose when death comes for us, but I just hope I am not exposed or engaging in private activities when it happens. Story 71. From medically assisted suicide. When I am too old to enjoy life anymore, I hope I am able to make the choice to end it on my terms. To be able to go painlessly with my mind still intact, while surrounded by my loved ones, would be a blessing. Story 72. After a nice sunny day, in my bed, old age, looking out the window into the sunset, and then suddenly dead. Story 73. Been reviewing all the Titan submarine material completely in that direction. Implosion. No knowledge, even though they heard the sounds of the cracks, but yes, it was instant and painless. Story 74. In space, making the ultimate sacrifice to secure a victory for humanity as we take our first steps into having a seat in a galactic government and having a planet or system named after me. Story 75. In my sleep when I am an old man, ideally in a home that I can pass down to my family. Sounds cliché, but it is the most ideal way to go. Story 76. A female double sneaks into my room while I am asleep, drugs me, and makes me go out with a great release. Story 77. Honestly, I do not want to die of old age or be on hospice. It sounds awful just wasting away, not being able to do anything. Story 78. I recently learned about assisted suicide available in this country for foreigners, and without requiring a terminal illness. My goal has been to save money for it. Unless I am happy continuing my life, I would want to do it in 2 years. Story 79. Quickly on a hike in the woods, close enough to a road that I do not have to be carried far, but far enough that I can only hear the sounds of nature. Story 80. After struggling with suicidal thoughts for years, I would rather just live now, preferably. I feel like I have so much to do and see. When it happens, I would rather not be aware. Maybe in my sleep, but not at home. I do not want my daughter or my husband to be the ones to find me. I do not know. Story 81. Peacefully in my sleep, just like my grandfather, and not screaming like the rest of the people in his car. Story 82. Probably having an aneurysm of a major artery rupture. It hurts for a second, but then you are gone. Most deaths, including natural ones, are anything but painless, so it is hard to expect a painless death. Out of all options, I would choose one without prolonged suffering. A brain injury, such as being shot, could be pretty instant as well. One way I really do not want to die is from Alzheimer's disease. You lose everything before slowly and painfully dying. No thanks. I watched my great-grandmother deteriorate like that. Story 83. I want to start fading in the arms of a loved one and in my final seconds begin to tell them that I hid a large amount of money in the dies. Story 84. Overdose. I'm not into drugs at all, but I'm a hedonistic person, so if I'm going out, I'd rather go out having a fun time. Drunk, possibly exhausted, full of tasty food, and maybe doing copious amounts of cocaine or something to carry me to 6 feet under. I'd rather go out with a bang when I feel myself on a high note than on a hospital bed. A mere shell of what I used to be. Story 85. Either due to old age and natural causes or doing something really cool but really stupid, if I am dying, I may as well make it worth it. Story 86. I don't. As much as it would hurt to lose my loved ones time and time again, I kind of wish I was immortal. Because no matter how low my life could get, I'll always bounce back into something better. There is so much to look forward to in an immortal life. I primarily want to live to see space travel to other planets. But since that is not possible, I guess dying in my sleep would be the preferred method of death. Story 87. I am wild camping a lot, so I feel like if I am going to get killed in the woods, it is better to be in my bright orange tent than somewhere in a bush. Story 88. Very old. Very rich. Very loved. Preferably after my caretaker gives me a kiss on the forehead and I nod off in front of a roaring fire. Story 89. Sword in my hand. An army of orcs running towards me as Madonna's Like a Prayer is playing in the background. Story 90. In my sleep. No pain. Or if it is not too much to ask, I would like to die with my partner, however and whenever. Story 91. Giant truck painted like the United States flag covered in United States themed decorations. Blasting the United States national anthem with artillery and eagle sounds paired with American Idiot by Green Day, and driving it all straight into the Grand Canyon when I am very old. Best death on the planet. Story 92. I don't know, but face me to the west so I can see the setting sun and remember all the good times we had. Arthur Morgan. Story 93. I want to be murdered. I know it's kind of weird, but I just want the drama. Of course, I will try to fight it if it ever comes to that. I just think it would be a crazy, fun way to die. I do not know. Story 94. After winning an epic battle to save humanity in the most whimsical place on Earth, I slowly passed out while being held by my future wife. Story 95. I do not want to struggle, but since we all have to face the end at some point, and after watching how my grandfather passed away with dementia in a nursing home, I want to be peacefully asleep when my time comes. Story 96. Like my grandmother. She decided she had enough of life one evening, said goodbye and be good to all of us, went to sleep, and died peacefully in her sleep. The most peaceful death I have ever seen. Story 97. Fighting a grizzly bear. Yes, basically the end of Legends of the Fall. I have a grizzly tattoo. I backpack camp in grizzly bear country all the time. Feels like it is how I am going to go eventually. Story 98. The world getting engulfed by a star or destroyed by a meteor shower. Either way, I want to die when everyone else does. Story 99. I want to be flung out of a catapult at the house of my 10th grade world history teacher, preferably hard enough to cause major damage. Being a splatter forever on the siding would not be too bad. Story 100. Either peacefully in an empty urban area covered in light snowfall, or in the most violent last stand possible, unable to ever know if it made a difference. Story 101. In my own bed, with a belly full of wine and a maiden's mouth around me. At the age of 80, says the dwarf, says myself. Story 102. It sounds unpleasant when said out loud, but I would rather live a healthy 60 to 65 years and call it a day than reach 80 with 10 to 15 years of ailments and diseases related to family genes that I do not want to experience during those years. It only sounds unpleasant because at 31, I have already reached the halfway point. Story 103. Quickly and unexpectedly, like a sudden heart attack or aneurysm, or from a sudden freak accident. I could be quietly walking down the street when a grand piano suddenly falls on my head. Story 104. Quick and painless. I have considered hiring a hitman to get it right. Alas, no money in the budget for it. Or else death by 1,000 cuts. I am sure I can find some time to do that one pro bono. It seems like a legitimate and tough way to go, the opposite of quick and painless though. Estimated time of arrival. Or the suicide booth from Futurama. The slow and horrible option, of course. Story 105. Firing a heavy machine gun into swarms of extraterrestrial beings, holding them off long enough for my team to evacuate. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.